Okay, so giving a brief about our previous session, a brief overview. I talked about SX, SS, uh, it was SS, ST, and SN, and S capital F. Okay, SYN scan, connect scan, null scan, and fin scan. And at top it was XMS scan. Okay, okay, great. So in case of fin scan, I believe I must have told you how it happens. A finished packet is sent. That happens in fin flag. In null scan, null byte is sent. Okay. And in case of XMS scan, your fin, urge, and push flags are sent. Okay. That's what happens in XMS scan. In connect scan, a complete three-way handshake is done, and in SYN scan, a complete three-way handshake is not done. It's also known as half open scan. Okay. Okay. Now let's get back to my machine here. My target machine is already switched on. It's in the switched on state. So let me get back to my Kali machine here. Open my terminal, increase the font size a little, perform a host discovery, start with the host discovery. Simply do a ping sweep. Okay, in the previous session, I must have told you that the ping sweep can be performed using hyphen smallest capital P flag. Okay. So there's another flag for doing the same thing, that is hyphen smallest capital smallest small n. Okay, smallest small n. So both of these flags are for the same purpose, that is ping sweep. Okay, it's one and the same thing. You can see the output is also the same. 135 is my IP, 149 is my victim IP. So let's get this IP here. Control Shift C. Let's do a clear screen, and let's do a nmap scan against it. So now let's try to enumerate this machine further. Okay, so I got to know, I can see that a bunch of ports are open here. Okay, great. Now what I want to do here is your version detection scan. Okay, basically uh, before doing a version detection scan, let me just tell you about banner grabbing. Okay, so what is banner grabbing? Have you guys ever heard about banner grabbing? Any one of you have heard about banner grabbing? What is banner grabbing? Hmm? No idea. Anyone? What do you understand by banner grabbing? What is banner grabbing? So essentially, these protocols that we are talking about here, they have a protocol banner. Okay, and what we try to do is we try to grab the banner to see what version of the protocol is running. So let me just show you one way of doing a banner grab. One way of doing a banner grab is using a telnet. Okay, I can simply try to make a telnet connection on any of the port. Let's say port number 21. So here you can see while making a telnet connection, the service shouted back its version. And here I can see that, okay, port number 21, Pro FTPD 1.3.1 is running here. Okay. That is something which is running here. Okay. Initially, I was only aware of the FTP service. Now I know the exact version of the FTP service that is running. Okay. Let me just do Control plus C to stop it. It is going to stop in a while. Open a new tab here. Another way of doing the same thing is using netcat. Okay, NC is short for netcat, followed by target IP address, followed by a target port number on which you want to make a connection. So let's now make a connection on port number 22, or let's just say port number 25. So when I tried making a connection, it says ESMTP postfix. Okay, so this is the SMTP server that is running on my target machine. Here you can see the SMTP server is running, but I don't know the exact version of the SMTP server that is running. But now I know it. Okay. So this thing essentially is known as your banner grabbing. Okay. Now this was your manual and tedious way of doing a banner grab. Okay. Through Nmap, you can automate this task. You can ask Nmap to do this thing automatically for you. How that is possible? That is possible through version detection scan. That is basically done by hyphen smallest capital V. So hyphen smallest capital V is used for performing a version detection scan. Okay. Just press enter. Let's see. Let's wait for the scan to finish. Right. So I have the output, and in the output I can see one more column here, one additional column here. Okay. The additional column is your version column. Okay. In the version column, I can see the exact version of the service that is running. It is as simple as that. Okay. So here you can see that Nmap has automatically performed all the banner grabs, and it's showing me the output here. Okay. Like port number 3306, we can see that MySQL server is running here. Okay. Port number 5432, PostgreSQL 830 to 837, something ranging from that version is running there. Port 8180, Apache Tomcat is running. Okay. Okay, great. Now I want to enumerate this thing. Okay. I want to further enumerate this thing. So how can I further enumerate this machine? What can I do? I have figured out that, okay, these are the ports that are open. What next? What can I do next? No idea. Let's say I want to enumerate port number 80. Okay. And I figured out that, okay, HTTP is running on port number 80, and the server is a Apache 2.2.8. Okay. Now how can I poke upon port number 80? How can I explore more on port 80? Can we try to connect through HTTP? How can we try to connect through HTTP? The question is how. How can we make an HTTP connection with a specific IP address? So what I can do here is I can simply open my browser. Okay. So for so long you guys would have been using browser for using the HTTP protocol, right? In the browser is the right tool for enumerating port number 80, right? New private tab here. Let's close this one. So what I can do here is I can simply type my target IP address here, and you can see that what happened here. I tried to make an HTTP connection on port number 80 with my target server. That's what happened here. Okay. Now it says it works. What do you understand by it works? Or uh, what is your understanding of this output? I just opened this IP address in my browser. What do you understand by it? Able to understand anything? It is active. Yeah. So that simply means that, okay, this server is running. Okay. It is just there to prove me one thing, that, okay, something is happening here. In other case scenario, there would have been a website that would have been hosted here, but that is not the case here. Okay. Not an issue. But now do I know from this point where can I proceed next? I do not have any working website here. I do not have anywhere to click, anywhere to go from here. Okay. No redirection, nothing. No directories, nothing. Hmm. Is it a dead end for me for while enumerating port number 80? So actually not. This is not the dead end. Now from this point, what I can try doing is uh, I can try doing a directory brute forcing. Okay. I hope you guys understand what does brute forcing means. Okay. Try to find robot.txt. So there's a typo there. That is actually robots.txt. Okay. Right. I can try looking for robots.txt as well. Let me just try doing it. Robots.txt, and it is not found. We can try to find admin page. How can we find the admin page? Yeah, Vaibhav. So how can we find a admin page? Let's try to WP admin. WP admin. But WP admin is the default admin page for WordPress websites, right? So WP admin is only going to open on those websites which are based upon WordPress. Okay. If this website is not based upon WordPress, then this thing is not going to work. Okay. Well, anyways, it's a good try. Okay. It's just hit and trial, right? Right. So for this hit and trial, actually what we have is we have got a tool, okay, to automate this task. Let's say what happens if it's a Drupal website? What happens if it is some other CMS that is being used? Okay. So we have got a tool which is going to do directory brute forcing for us. And what is directory brute forcing? Okay. Actually, these are your directories here. Something, something here, something, something here, something, something here. These are your directories. If I need to annotate it, this is a directory. What happens is this is my root directory. Uh, and in here there's a directory named this, then I went to this, then I went to this, and there's a file something like this. Okay, so for brute forcing these directories automatically, we have got a tool that is dirb, derp, or you can say derby. The tool name is derp. Let's just copy this thing, go to my terminal. Question: we can see the server details on the page in front us. We try to find an exploit, maybe start working from there? Yes, we can do that as well, right? That is also an option right here. Through the enumeration, through the scanning, I was able to identify the server version. Okay, so I can right away just type this version in the Google, and I right away search for the exploit, like Apache 2.2.8 space exploit. That is also a way. Okay, that is the right way. Okay, now, yeah, so let's do a clear screen here, and let's try to perform a directory brute forcing here. How can we do a directory brute forcing here? It's pretty simple. That is, the tool that I'm going to use is derb, short for directory brute force, followed by your target URL. Okay, and simply press enter. I hope this command is clear. I hope there is no doubt in this command. Only after you are going to say yes, I'm going to press enter. I hope this command is clear. Hmm. Any doubt? Okay. What about others? So let's press enter now. Okay. Let it run. So here certain things that you guys need to observe is basically there's a word list file that it took. I did not provided any word list file, right? It automatically took a word list and it is present in user share derb word list directory. This is the word list. Okay, and the words that it contains are 4,612 words. These are the number of words that are present in this word list. Okay, okay, and this is the base URL. Here you can see, and some output on my screen. Okay, so how can I interpret it? Hmm? What is the type of output am I seeing here? Before understanding the output, first of all, tell me what are these codes? Hmm? What are these codes that that I'm being provided here? Hmm? What is this? Code 200 HTTP. Okay, right. So actually, these codes are basically your HTTP response codes. Okay, so I'm not going to go into deep with HTTP response code, but just giving you a high level overview. This is the image that you can refer. Talking about a high level overview. So here you can see that series of hundreds. These are your HTTP response code. Series of hundreds are going to be informational response codes. 200s are going to be success. 300s are going to be redirections. Series of 400 is going to be your client side errors. Series of 500 is going to be your server side errors. Okay. Okay. So this is just a bird's eye view. Okay. Actually, there are more specific response codes and their meanings that you guys must be aware of, like 401, 403, 404, 405, stuff like that. 301, 302, 304, like that. 500s, so on and so forth. Okay. So in this output, what I can see is, so brute forcing. The meaning of brute forcing is clear, right? Am I required to explain this thing? What is happening here? What is directive brute forcing? Do I need to elaborate on it? Hmm? What is happening here? Why do you use a word list, and what is brute forcing? If you guys want, I can elaborate on it as well. Brute force is send all the word and recording the response. Right. So brute forcing is simply like you can say that repeated attempts of doing something. Repeated attempts. So what we are doing essentially here is we are using a tool. We are providing it with a URL that is going to be act as a base URL, and we are providing it with a word list. And what it is doing is it is taking words from the word list and appending it at this point and making a request on our behalf. Okay. So one by one, it is going to replace the words here. Okay. And it is going to mark the response. Like what kind of response did I received? I received 200, 200, 200, 200, 403, and stuff like that. Okay. So that I can analyze what all directories exist here. That is simply your directory brute forcing. Scanning URL, first line is clear. It says CGI bin 403. 403 is your forbidden, access denied. Okay. If you still want to check it out, let's just copy link address, go to my browser, and here, so it says forbidden. You do not have permission to access CGI bin on this server. That means that this is a directory that exists, but I'm not allowed to have access to. Okay. But it's a valid directory, right? Hmm. So coming back to my directory brute forcing. So here I can see response code 200s. So out of all response codes, what are those response codes that are going to be of my interest here? Tell me. 200s, right? And what about 300s and 400s? It's they shows error or forbidden for access. It's not coming during our brute force activity. No, they are going to come. You can see here 403s are actually being reflected here, forbidden ones, and 300s are going to be here. Let me just check it out. Yeah, here it is. You can see response code 300s. They are going to come. So actually 200s are going to be our utmost priority, and we should not neglect 300s and 400s as well. Okay. So talking about 300s, they are for HTTP redirection. Okay. So it is a good practice to manually check them out, try opening it in the browser and see where are you being redirected. When you tried opening this thing, a specific URL, where were you redirected then? Okay, so that is something that you need to be aware of. A lot of people, yeah, 301s and 302 are for it, right? Okay, so similarly 403s, like 403s are also relevant. Like you need to know what all directory actually exist. Their existence should be known. Okay, you are allowed to have access or you are not allowed to have access, that is secondary. Okay, maybe there is some kind of a login mechanism that is in place. Only once you are authenticated, then you are allowed to have access to these resources, and later on you also find out the credentials as well. Okay, login credentials, so those URLs are going to come in handy. Okay, so okay, so let's check it out. What do we have here? Index. Hmm. Index.html, php info, server status. So index.html we have already viewed. Okay, that's the it works page. And what else do we have there? We have got php info. Yeah, index.html is your home page. So we do not need to re- uh, open it again. We have already seen it. Let's try checking for php info. Copy link address. So yeah, it is working, opening. And what I can see from here is this is my PHP configuration file. All the PHP configurations are provided to me. PHP is running, it is installed on the target server, and it exists. Okay. Getting back, I can see Twiki directory, server status, like code 403. Let me just copy this one, copy link address, try opening it here. Permission denied. Question: are logs made on this server during a brute force? So that depends, right? In this case, we do not have any defensive mechanism in place. Okay. But in most of the times, logs are going to be generated. Coming back to my point, so it says a directory has been found. That is Twiki. Okay. So let me just try to visit this one. It opens readme.txt. Some kind of an installation is here. Yes, it is going to alarm the target in that case if logs are made. Yes, that somebody is trying to do a directory brute forcing. Okay. How to bypass that? What to bypass? Like you want to make a request, but you do not want it to be logged. No, that is not possible. Every time you are going to make a request is sent to the server. Okay. The only thing that you can spoof is your source IP address, nothing else. Okay. Yeah. So we have an answer here that says proxy chains. So proxy chain is just going to spoof your source IP address. You, but you cannot just right away bypass logs, bypass those logs. Okay. Logs are going to be created. Yeah, VPN proxy chains, proxy is an answer to that. Okay. Okay. So let's get back here. License.txt, copyright for license. So what I'm doing here is when you approach web application, okay, so we are going to ping from VPN. I do not understand the relevancy of ping here. to brute force the target. No, that simply means like, see, how does a proxy work, or how does a VPN work? It is going to mask your IP address, and the request that you are trying to send to the target server, the request is going to be generated, but the origin of the request is not going to be from yours. Okay, that is going to be from the VPN. Okay, right. Okay, so let's get back to my point. So when you are approaching a web application, okay, so I hope everyone has already installed Metasploitable, huh? Everyone has downloaded and configured it in their VMwares. Tell me, I want an answer. Yes. What about others? I should probably take your silence as no. Okay. Yeah, that's why you guys are give me 2 minutes. No, after class I'll configure. Yeah, not an issue. I'm not saying that you need to have it right now. What I'm saying is that you guys need to practice. Okay, once I'm done with this session, you guys need to start practicing, because it is not going to help you out if I'm going through everything here and you guys are not practicing it. That is not going to help you. Okay, I already have everything memorized. Okay, I am in a habit to running all of these stuff. So I do not have any issue. But you guys are going to start facing an issue when you guys are going to try it. That VM is for VMware, not VirtualBox. Yeah. Still that is going to work. Okay. What you can do is I do not have VirtualBox installed here. But if you are facing any issue like how to set it up in VirtualBox, you can share me your screen and I'll walk you through it. Like how to set up that thing in VirtualBox. Okay. I'll guide you. No problem. I have pro version of VMware now. Great. Then why did you said that VM is for VMware, not VirtualBox? Unnecessarily, huh, Vaibhav? I tried before on VirtualBox. Okay, great. Not an issue. Yeah, I would suggest you guys to have VMware itself. Okay. Uh, I do not have any logical explanation to that. Why do I prefer VMware? But I just prefer VMware over VirtualBox. That's all. Okay. It's my personal favorite, you can say. Uh, yeah, coming back to my point, if other people are using VirtualBox and they are facing any issue while setting up a VMware image on VirtualBox, you can let me know. I'll guide you. That is possible actually. Yeah, Ben, do you have a doubt? Okay, great. So coming back to my point here, see, I was telling you that when you guys are going to approach an application,
Define com una assim mesmo 그럼 요 아스인데 세스도 칼릴로 mas 엄마 아스도 물어나 이거 음 아마 오나
I thought maybe you were asking something. Well, not an issue. Um, Coming back here. So what I was telling you is when you are approaching an application, okay, you do not know anything about the application, okay. So it is like mandatory for you guys to go through all of this output, okay. That thing I'm not going to go through in this session. That is for your homework, self-study, okay. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to show you the simple methodology, what all things you can do. I already know what are some sensitive directories here, what are some sensitive files here that I need to open, okay. So like if I give you an example like this, copy link address, so paste and go. This is a directory that I found in in this derp, derp output. So what do I see here? Tell me. Take a minute, go through this page. We can see form to upload a file, right? So there, so here basically I am provided with an opportunity to upload something to this server. Okay, we can upload an exploit, right? So it basically gives me an opportunity for an exploitation. Okay, I can do an arbitrary file upload here. Okay, or file upload bypass stuff here. Not going to exploit it, but just going to give you an idea that why directory brute forcing is necessary. Okay, you can see here like jpg, j for png files are only allowed here. Okay, so I can do a file extension bypass here so that I'm able to upload my malicious file here. Okay, upload it to the server, get it executed, get a shell back. Once I get a shell back, I have a remote access to the target server. So this metasploitable machine, actually it's a intentionally vulnerable machine which is going to have multiple ways of gaining access. This is just one out of them. Okay, so it can act like a good homework for you guys to start exploring what all ways actually exist here. Okay, like from port 80 how many ways exist, port 8180 how many ways exist, like port number 21 how many ways exist, so on and so forth. Okay, so getting back here, let me just check out some 302s. So this name seems to be interesting to me. What does it say? It says pass wd. You can see here pass wd file. So pass wd file is the file that contains some sensitive information like user details. Hmm? Initially, in initial days, passwd files used to contain passwords as well. Okay, later on it was separated and passwords were stored in shadow files. Okay, so when I tried opening this file, you can see in the browser I was redirected to something else like slash oops main web home template blah blah blah, missing fields and blah blah blah. Okay, great. Some new page here. Try to explore it like this. Okay, installation error. Try viewing this directory. Can I see it? Nope. Try to see it this way. Nope. Forbidden and tricky. Getting back to normal. Okay, great. So similarly, you guys can enumerate this thing. Okay, enumeration is very extensive. Okay, very extensive. You can take 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, a whole month while enumerating an application. Okay, so that depends how extensively you want to enumerate. Okay, so the same things can be performed using a dirbuster as well. dirbuster. This is nothing but the GUI version of dirb, the tool that you have already seen. The GUI version of that tool is dirbuster. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about it. As why I'm not going to talk about it is because we have already talked about it using dirb. It's one and the same thing. Now let's say you want to provide your custom word list here. Okay, you did not provided this common.txt here. It was taken by itself by default. Okay, how can you provide your custom word list here? So here you can see that 4,000 words were used for doing this brute force, but you want to use 20,000 words, 30,000 words, 2 lakh words, 20 lakh words. How can you provide a custom word list? Hmm? Any idea? Try opening the help menu. Huh? Try opening the help menu, going through certain example. usage. See if you guys are able to identify. Time's up. User share wordless dub big.txt. Okay. So this is how you can provide a custom word list. Okay. This is the syntax of the command. Simply type the command name, that is dub, followed by target URLs, followed by a space, and followed by your word list that you want to use. And here you can see 20,000 words are used, right? Another key difference that you need to observe here is, here my brute forcer has identified a new directory that is known as sticky wiki. Sticky wiki has been identified. Can you guys notice that? Yes, it also contains robots.txt, but there is a condition with robots.txt. First of all, let's say what is robots.txt, okay? So you are saying robots.txt. What is robots.txt? Tell me. Robots.txt is created for Google. Okay, what else? Or is that all? Okay, we have got bunch of answers here. Robots.txt is created for Google for files which you want to give access. It contains pages which Google crawl. It contains scrolling. It controls scrolling of URLs. Okay, right. So essentially, see, robots.txt has nothing to do specifically with Google. Okay, but what it basically does is it has to do with the spiders and the crawlers. Okay, so there are different spiders, different crawlers for different search engines. Okay, Bing is going to have different one, Google is going to have its own spider, so on and so forth. So what robots.txt is going to have is, robots.txt is going to contain a list of those directories which shall not be crawled, which are going to be disallowed or allowed. Okay, because there is no as such significance for allowing anything. Okay, the only significance of robots.txt is for disallowing anything that a spider shall not be crawling. Okay, is not allowed to crawl. Okay, because if you are not going to make any entries, disallowed entries in robots.txt, the spider is going to index everything. It is going to spider everything, it is going to index everything, and maybe some sensitive directories are going to be indexed by the Google, and it is going to start appearing in the search results of people. Okay, so okay, the condition with robots.txt is it should always be present in the root directory of a website. Okay, so if I say root directory, I'm saying it should always be present here, robots.txt. If it is not present here, instead it is present inside another directory like Tiki, Wiki. So here you can see that robots.txt exist, but this is of no use to me actually. No, not it is of use to me, but it is of no use to the spider or the crawler. Essentially, the whole purpose of robots.txt is being failed here. Okay, because the condition is not being met. I hope this thing is clear. Hmm? Okay, getting back to my brute forcer, still going on. Let me just stop it for a while. A lot of results are here with me, way larger than the ones I had here using the common.txt. So actually, you can see that this directory which have been found by my big.txt, this was the directory that actually existed, but I was not aware of, even after doing a directory brute force, even after doing that. Okay. So do you guys understand what is the difference that I'm trying to highlight here? Yeah. So the main difference here is the use of word list. Okay. If a word is not present in the dictionary or in the word list that you are using for brute force, okay, and you are trying to run a brute force, and there is a directory that exists, so you would not be able to have access to that directory. You would not even be able to know the existence of that directory. Okay, that is one thing. Big word list, more words, more possibility of identifying more directories, but it is going to consume more time. Okay. Okay. So let's check it out. TikiWiki directory. When I checked out TikiWiki directory, I can see here the version of the application that is installed here. Okay, it says TikiWiki 195. Okay, so similarly, while enumerating, I have come across, sorry, I have come across a lot of applications that have been installed here. So like Twiki was an example. Okay, TikiWiki 195 is another example. Apache Server 228 is another example. Okay, so I can specifically search for exploits relevant to this version. Like let's just copy this one. Okay, let's go here and paste it. TikiWiki 195 exploit. Go to exploit DB, our favorite website for exploits. What does it say? It says some kind of a information disclosure exploit. Okay, not of that much use, not an issue. um, there's a critical security bug in TikiWiki, blah blah blah. Anonymous user can dump the MySQL user and password just by creating a SQL error, something something something. The exploit explanation, proof of concept here. There's also an cross-site scripting vulnerability here, and this is the URL that it says. Let me just copy it. I'm just trying. Let's see what happens. Tricky. Uh, paste it here. Yeah, so it works actually. There's a cross-site script vulnerability here. Okay, so we do not need to exploit anything as of now. Okay, and if you guys do not know what is cross-site scripting, don't worry. I'm going to talk about cross-site scripting in our later upcoming web application modules. So let's just close this thing. We do not need to exploit it. Uh, okay, so that is one thing. Further, I can explore more files here. Okay, whole lot of files are here. robots.txt was here. I could have, let's visit it, disallow CVS. Okay, I can try it. Not found. Maybe I need to append TikiWiki here. TikiWiki. TikiWiki was not found on the server. Okay, does not exist. Not an issue. So you can try whatever directories we have here. Like backup seems to be interesting to me. Copy. Probably a 302 or 301 got redirected. Bin. Oops. Bin. Still not found. Not an issue. Setup 200. Well, so this was your directory brute forcing. Similarly, you can run Nikto. Okay, Nikto is a tool. Nikto space hyphen h. Nikto is your automated web-based vulnerability scanner. You can say Nikto space hyphen h http colon slash slash 192.168.75.141. Going to take some time. Let it run in behind the scenes. Let it run in background. Okay. Okay, so it's running very fast today. Great. So I can see what all methods are allowed or disallowed here. Okay. Like get method is enabled here, head, post, options, trace. Okay. There's no vulnerable method available here. Okay. It would have been good if put method was enabled. Okay. Because put method allows us to upload something, to put something to the server. Okay. These are essentially your HTTP methods. I would request you guys to read more about HTTP methods. Okay, what are HTTP methods and what do they mean actually? What else? So I had port number 21 as well here. Okay. Right. Port 21 is here. How can I enumerate this port? How can I make an FTP connection on this port? Can anyone of you tell me? My question is how to make an FTP connection. Don't know. Okay. So there are two ways. I can use browser for making an FTP connection. I can use my command line. How to do it through command line? Pretty easy. Easy peasy stuff. That is, you can simply type FTP followed by your target IP address. So the IP address is this. Simply press enter and an FTP connection is going to be made. And here you can see that I'm basically asked for an authentication here for entering the username password here. Okay. What shall I do now? Do I know the credentials? Just try default one, admin, login failed. Just do exit here. Try doing it again. Admin, password, Login failed. What to do now? I tried logging in with some default credentials like admin password, admin 123456, so on and so forth, but I failed. So there's an FTP feature that allows anonymous login. What I need to do is I just need to type anonymous here. Password required for anonymous. Login failed. So actually anonymous login is not enabled here, but it's a good thing to check for anonymous login. Why so? Because many times what happens is anonymous logins are allowed at certain servers. Okay. Many times you will see that anonymous logins are allowed. So if anonymous login would have been allowed here, then I would have been able to log in to the FTP server using the anonymous as the username. Okay. Using anonymous as the username. Okay. Great. So the only way left here is by using the credentials that I already know, that is MSF admin and MSF admin. Okay. And what does it says? It says user MSF admin logged in. Hmm. Okay, so now you can see that the shell has changed. Now I am inside an FTP shell instead of a bash shell. I'm inside a FTP shell. So my bash commands are not going to work here actually. Okay. So what I can do is I can simply type help here for opening a help menu. And here I can see like what all commands are available to me. So what all commands can I see here? I can see ls is available to me, cd is available to me, pwd is available to me, and put is available to me, get is available to me, dir is available to me, so on and so forth. Okay, let's just type pwd here, and pwd is going to tell me where am I basically. Okay. Okay, so I'm in home/home/msf admin directory. I can do an ls here. So when I did an ls here, I saw that there's a directory named vulnerable. Hmm. I can move into this directory. pwd, where am I? And ls. When I did an ls, I have uh, some folders here, some directories here. So by the name, do you guys identify these things? Have you guys heard about them? Hmm? Yes. Where? In our HTTP enumeration, right? In HTTP enumeration, we saw that these are certain applications which are installed on the web server. TikiWiki is there. Wiki is there. Okay. What I can do is I can just do cd TikiWiki. Let's say TikiWiki. Press enter. Moved into it. PWD. I'm inside. Let's do an ls. And I am being provided with some kind of a zip file here. Okay, zip file. What to do next? What can I do next? Unzip them. Can I unzip here itself? What is going to be the command for unzipping it? Huh? Not possible on the target server. What I can do is gzip. Unzip them. No, gzip. Okay. So what I can do is I can try downloading the file from the server and save them locally, and then try to perform any operation that I want. Hmm? Right? How to download the file? Using the get command. Just type get. 195 was the version. Just paste it here. Press enter, and it has been downloaded. Let me just do an exit here. Exit ls, and you can see that the zip file has been downloaded. Okay, so in Kali Linux, the color encoding scheme for zip files is red. Okay, blue is for directory, green is for executables, white is for plain simple files, and red is for zip files, violet is for images. Okay, let's just not do that. So I have a zip file at my hand, at my disposal. Let me just copy it to some other folder. Yeah, let's just move this one. Yeah, so I have it here. Unzip it. Unzipped it. ls. I can see a new folder here. cd TikiWiki ls. So here am I. Where am I? Here am I inside the zip, and I can see the source code of the application. Okay, I can see the server side code of the application, whatever is running there. Okay, I can go to backups, the DP folder, and if you guys know that PHP is a server side language, and in any case scenario, I would not have been able to view the PHP code through the browser. Okay, browser is not going to ever show you the PHP code or the JSP or the ASP or the Python code. Hmm. So I can do a source code review here. Go through these files. Maybe I can find some credentials in these files. In some file, like let's go to DB. CD DB ls. What all files do we have here? Login.php seems to be interesting. I need to go through this thing. Cat cat tiki login dot php. Try to go through this file, see if We can see any credentials here in the PHP source code. Now, very big file. Let me just grab the password. Not anything here, not an issue. So similarly, I can explore other files as well, okay? Just by merely looking at the names, whatever seems to be interesting, I'll go through it. htaccess.sh, Tiki movies, not seems to be interesting to me. Cookie jar seems to be interesting. Login validate.php seems to be interesting. Let's go through it. Grep for password if we have any. Invalid username, password. Nope, we do not have any. Just search for unames or usernames. Nothing. Okay. Well, never mind. So that was just hit and trial thing. Okay. That's why it's not an easy stuff. Okay. The local enumeration is very difficult. Uh, Enumerating some specific port. It's very tedious. Okay. Yeah, guys. So I hope everything is clear. If anything is not clear, you guys can ask me the doubt now. Hmm. Doubts, doubts. Now is the time. No replies. Still thinking if something is clear or nothing is clear. Hmm. Tell me. I hope you guys can hear me. Huh? What is this step we follow? The process should be the way you should explain step by step, or there is any other way. Uh, with what respect you are asking me this? I mean, I'm not able to understand it. Like in what regard? What is this step we follow? These are the steps we follow. The process should be the way you just explained step by step. Yeah, it's a step by step process, right? You find a port number HTTP port number 80 open, you are going to, I think he's asking for enumeration, right? Yeah. So that's how you enumerate it. Okay. So that depends upon you. If you want to enumerate port number 21 first, that is upon you. You want to pick another port, that is upon you. Okay. But generally port 80 is something good to start with. Anything else that you guys want to ask? Not yet. Okay, great. So great. We'll meet tomorrow then. Okay, tomorrow our timings are from 3 to 5, right? Yeah. So at 3 we'll meet. We'll have a session on 3. I'll complete the enumeration and I'll start with the another module. Okay, the enumeration is not yet completed in today's session. I'll continue tomorrow. Okay, so have a great day ahead, guys. Okay, take care. And yeah, bye bye. That's all. Same to you. Thank you. Thank you.